What's going on, T-shirt millionaires? I'm Charles Smith III, the host of the T-shirt millionaires live show. And today we have an amazing interview with the guy that I was plugged in again, Stan Bakes, the man. He's out there connecting me with everybody. Basically, he plugged me in. We have Jon Phenom. He's actually the creator, the mastermind behind what he calls the Clothing Brand Academy to help take T-shirt brands to the next level. But not just T-shirt brands. I'm talking about clothing brands. If you want to do cut and sew, you want to add a little more flavor to what you've already created, Jon's the guy to help you be able to do that. So what we're going to do is hit this intro video, and then we're going to come back and have a great conversation with Jon. We'll be right back. What's going on, T-shirt millionaires family? I'm Charles Smith III, the host of the T-shirt millionaires live show. And today we got a phenomenal guest. His name is Jon Phenom. He's the creator of Clothing Brand Academy. Jon, what's going on, my brother? Glad to have you. How you doing today, man? Uh-oh. I think Jon froze up on us. Jon, where you at, bro?
Oh, crazy. Right when I was talking.
It's all good, man. Hey, look, everything. There's only one rule on the T-shirt millionaires live show, and the only rule is everything goes. So it's all good. You still there with me, my brother? We gonna wait for a second, y'all. I'm gonna go ahead and say my quick prayer. We're gonna make sure that the internet gods touch Jon's internet. Make sure he's smooth and clean coming through today. We got amazing conversation. So we're gonna wait to see if my brother comes back. He might have to get off. You know what I'm saying? He might have to get on. While he does that, what I'm gonna do is we're gonna go solo with Charles right now. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna wait for Jon to come back. It's all good. We having a little bit of technical difficulty. I'm gonna go ahead and remove him, and I'll wait for him to come back. All right. So look, y'all. If y'all want to get y'all brand fresh, if you want to get flavor, Jon is the guy to help you do that. So let me pull him back up. I think we might be good to go. What's up, family?
Dog, I'm so sorry. That's crazy.
Man, hey, it's all good, man. It's all good. Wait, look, man, it ain't no rush. It ain't, look, man. When you have your own, this is how we do it, my brother. So it's all good.
What can you do? Internet. Yeah. What I was trying to say is I'm super excited.
We're gonna wait for him. We're gonna wait for him to see if he pop up. Hey, just like Vera said, God is in control. It's all good, man. You know what I'm saying? This is what we do. It's all good. You there?
Crazy. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, bro.
Yo, this is wild. I've never had the internet fluctuate this crazy when I'm going live with you.
It's all good, family. It's all good. Look, we'll figure it out. We'll see if how things work out now. You know what I'm saying? We'll see if it works. If it seemed like, you know what I'm saying, it keep freezing on us, you know, maybe you might cut the computer off, turn it back on. And if not, then we'll scoot it back to a different time. It's totally fine, bro. We'll work it out the way that it's supposed to work out. All right. So you can see if you can try to talk and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, okay, cool. So let's move forward and try. You can hear me, right, fam?
Yeah, I can hear you, family.
Okay.
So cool, man. What do you do, my brother?
Oh, okay. That's a good question. So I've been designing apparel professionally for over 21 years now. So it's easy math. Got my first job working at a skateboard company designing cut and sew apparel in 2000. So it's easy math from there, right? I had met this guy who moved from New York and came out here to California when I was like 18 or so, like a little bit after high school, and he designed clothing, like streetwear apparel, right? So urban was huge at the time. This is like the late 90s. Urban was huge at the time, and then skate and surf was becoming monstrous industries, right?
Right.
And so I met him, and it changed my life. I was looking for a job. I was artistic, you know what I mean? I wanted to do different things. Of course, I wanted to travel if possible. I wanted a career that was interesting. And so when I met him, I was like, I don't know what's involved in all of that, but I could do that. And so, yeah, I actually started a t-shirt line right after that and sort of learned t-shirts, but I wanted to get into cutting. So my first job in 2000, I always say with like my name on the business card, was at a skate company in San Diego. And then I just kind of moved on from there. So in the last 21 years, moved up to senior men's designer at like a $60 million a skate and surf company. And then, yeah, at the last 3 companies I was at, I was a director.
Absolutely. So definitely you've got the credentials, you got the chops, and you've had a lot of experience, not with just like a startup, but with companies that are doing a lot of, you know what I'm saying, units and making a lot of money. So before even that, bro, because you talked about you got this job and it kind of changed your life, it changed your trajectory. Mm-hmm. Before that, what ways were you kind of using this creative talent that you had?
Oh, well, I've been going at apparel most of my career, like my young adult life. Like my whole goal when I was like 18, 19, moving forward, was to have my own clothing line. I always said I'm gonna make like $1 million clothing line, and then put a lot of the money into real estate, and then continue because fashion can be volatile. But yeah, before that, I would draw. I was into drawing as well. And I just knew I would be creative. My dad always said I would become an artist. But anything I saw in school was like broke artists or that type of thing. And so that, like, I'm very logistical. When people meet me, they'll realize I can speak art direction all day, right, but I'm very interested in logistics. And so I'm not 100% just like a raw, like creative director in a sense.
Okay. So that's something we're definitely going to get into. You mentioned that word logistics, and I want to ask you about that. But before we even move forward again, bro, I want to just dig into this a little deeper, like your reason why apparel? What attracted you to apparel? What was it about apparel where you like, I want to do that?
Oh man, so many things. So I feel like just the job alone involves youth culture, right? Depends on your demographic, but generally speaking, most of my career is all centered around men's streetwear. Right. But you had to know what was trending, what was going on, not only in fashion but in music, even movies. Fashion touches all of entertainment, so that was appealing to me. I've traveled to 5-6 different countries, all for mass production. So. At 21, the first company I was at, they flew me out to Busan, Korea. And so, I put some miles traveling via mass production. So it checked that box. When I was young, I was like, maybe I'll get to travel, and I certainly have. So all of those elements. And then I have this idea of of numbers, where if you could do something that less and less people can do, it's just like you're going to get all the things that you want fulfilled in your career. And, you can become a specialist. If you're passionate about it, it's kind of an effortless thing is my idea. And so I work all the time. Yeah. And, but it's always been like linked with things I'm passionate about.
Wow. Okay. No, that's amazing, bro. So tell me about this skate brand company. So you going in, what were some of the projects that you worked on at the very beginning when you first started linking with the company and working with them?
Well, so that's a funny story. First of all, when I came into the company, I didn't know it was a job interview, and I don't think the art director who became my boss, I don't think he necessarily thought of that either. He was like, yo, let's do lunch. Everyone in the industry knew that I was gunning for a job. Wow. And I would be driving. I was in San Diego, and I would drive up to LA and tell people, I'll come intern for you. I'll get you coffee. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was ready to grind and hustle. And so I had that t-shirt line that was going on, and I was actively selling it, making it, and learning screen printing process. And so the co-founder of the company, the vice president, who was only 26 at the time. And I say small company, but they were doing millions. They were doing millions. And he saw what I was doing. It turned into a job interview, and he like hired me in 10 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, didn't even look at my apparel sketches. And he was just like, he saw the t-shirt line. And back then I would poly bag them all myself. And I made like flashers, like tags on each t-shirt. So it felt like individual product.
Right.
But I was just moving them so I could get the feeling of moving units and say that I'm doing something in clothing and learning my Adobe programs. In any case, he ended up hiring me off of that, off of my t-shirt line and seeing my hustle.
Yeah.
So little tidbit for your viewers, but the projects I was doing in there was like my first season of Cut and Sew, which was crazy because to be honest, dude, I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, the Jon like 5 years after that is just like so much more complete than me starting off, and I made a lot of mistakes.
Right.
And so Southern California, you know, we had cargo shorts, jackets, windbreakers. The very first product I made was like a sock, and so all of those products I went through the production process.
Awesome. So when you let's talk about this sock, right? That's one of the first things you do. So when it comes to, do they come to you and they're like, okay, Jon, we want to have some socks. And then what is the process for you? Do you, like you said, do you sketch stuff out? You come up with a whole bunch of mock-ups? Like, walk us through that process of developing a piece for the brand.
Oh, great question. So I'll zoom out a little bit for context.
Yeah.
But like when I'm sitting down with a company, let's say I just get on board with them, I'll usually have a conversation with this sounds funny. I'll have a conversation with their sales manager.
Okay.
And a lot of times in established companies, the creative guys and the sales guys don't get along. It's like Bloods and Crips, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I always request to have lunch with the sales manager. One of the first things that I do, and it sets the tone. So like people get sketched out, or they're like, "Whoa, the creative guy wants to talk to the sales guy." And what I want to know, I'm super data driven, which is weird. But I want.
It seems like it's weird for a creative.
It is, and I'm telling you, it is. So if I meet with people that own a company, I interview much different than another creative director. Super data driven. I want to know what SKUs are selling. Wow. What category does this company dominate in? And then what are weak? So I'll ask all these almost like survey questions. And besides my independent research, with the people inside, I get a lot of insight into like what they're doing. And from them, I start forming what I want to do. But my first meeting, I'm just listening. I'm trying to take in and get everyone's perspective. I like to talk to key accounts if they have distributors. So distributors are basically other countries that would represent that brand in Germany, in Tokyo, in Russia, and they'll do a massive buy. So they're like big customers, and then they sell to their own individual shops in their country. So those guys are big stakeholders in the brand. So I'll take their input, and you'll be shocked. But like a lot of times design won't do that. They're like, we're gonna put out what we think we need to put out, right. Which does make sense in the creative sense. But I for my process, I'll take in all that information, and then I'll begin building SKUs. I'll look at what the last season looked like, and then I'll build from there. And then the core, we keep banging on that and making sure that's tight. And then slowly I'll try to expand in other categories where I think we have a possibility to grow.
That's amazing. So I think that's powerful, bro. And I think, it's almost like you're listening what the audience wants, right? And it's not so much, I mean, it could be the external audience, but you also have this audience of the sales team, of the distributors, understanding what is already moving, what the historical data tells you. And then that kind of fuels your decision on how you move going forward. And I think even from the smallest brand, I think that's very valuable. You might not have this internal team, but to be able to listen to your audience as well, kind of see what they like, and then move in that direction and still put your creative flair on it. So tell me real quick, bro, about like seasons. Like I hear this all the time. There's different seasons with, brands. I don't know if it's, spring season, fall collection, whatever it is, but are you coming together and making these different SKUs and just putting them all together for a period of time during the year? How does that work?
Yes. Short answer is yes.
Okay.
And so I'm glad you brought that up, because most of the people who I serve on my channel are startups, but it's good to give them like a 30,000 foot view of what I've seen in my 21 years.
Right.
But yes, we will do things in like an established company. And when I say established, I mean, you have a retail base, a retail account, you have doors, right? Like you're shipping to maybe like a Tilly's or an Active or, Macy's, that sort of thing. Those companies that have traditionally, like brick and mortar, have sold your SKUs, they need a way to plan it. So the way it's planned is in seasons. So spring, summer, fall, and holiday. And then sometimes the terms change, but they see the product in advance, and then the companies need a lead time. So sometimes you're designing 6 months to a year in advance.
Wow.
So they can make their orders, and then we go to our international cut and sew makers, and then they ship it. So typically from China, that has been the experience in a lot of my last companies. And then you deliver to these chains. And so that's why it's done that way. Now, I want to say, this is why I'm glad you brought it up. For merch, if you're an influencer and you just blew up in TikTok and you got 60K followers in a month, that's a different deal. Like, you don't have to abide by that, because your base is all online, and it's like, it's B2C, it's straight to customer. So anything in between, like, I mean, there's scenarios where it's like, if a company wants to start selling to retail, they have to change if they only went straight to customer. Because I'm like, okay, now you have to introduce seasons. So it's a little bit tricky, but I'm like, you can do drops whenever you want, but you need to offer the retail doors a structured season of spring, summer, fall, holiday.
Understood. So you can go whenever you want B2C, but B2B, you need to have some structure in place, and you need to, plan stuff way ahead of time. You have to, consider manufacturing all that stuff as well. So that makes a lot of sense, bro. So at this first skate company that you worked at, like, what were some of like your proudest accomplishments that you did while you were there?
Basically just getting through it. Like I said, I made mistakes, but I did do a windbreaker jacket. I think it shows up sometimes in some of my searches because I have it in my portfolio. But there's a windbreaker that sold for several seasons, and then they just changed the colorway, meaning the color blocking of the windbreaker, they changed it, and that did very well. So I even though I made mistakes with production in the past, I was proud of that. But it was a great beginning. Shout out to Osiris Skate Shoes and Brian and everybody out there. The Dungeon Crew was my art department.
That's what's up.
Yeah, actually, Brian was on a Vice feature not that long ago. He's the vice president that hired me, but there was this thing. So Osiris Skate Shoes was actually the company. So the apparel I did was an accessory to the skate shoe, and they were big in the 90s, late 90s. And ASAP Rocky made a shoe that looked similar. So a Vice covered it, and there was this little thing. But yeah, shout out to everybody from the old school crew.
That's dope, bro. That's dope. That's dope. About how many people, like, when it comes to like a creative team, how big is a team? How big was your team?
So over there we had 3 designers and we had 1 production manager, and that's pretty typical. And so, but I was the only apparel designer. And then the guys could be used for graphics and marketing. So back then we did more print. So layout was a big thing, and it takes a ridiculous amount of lead time. So your guys will be interchangeable. In an art department now, I mean, having another graphic designer that will do all of your soft goods. So all of your looks on like graphic designs and printables and that stuff. And then probably web assets is what you would do now. But I've played so many roles where I wear the production manager hat, and then I'm doing graphics and apparel design. But yeah, it's an accordion. Like a pretty decent sized company will at least have 1 other designer or maybe an art director, and then me as a creative director.
Understood. And the last thing that I want to ask you about that is, as you're going through the creative process, how many like yeses in the internal team do you need before that gets released? Like, Does that got to get shown to the salesperson? Does it got to get approved? Like, what is that approval process?
Good question. My answer is it depends.
Yeah.
So the sales guy could have a ton of seniority if the owner of the company really leans towards that person.
Right.
So, and I figure out those politics immediately. So I can figure out how that all works. I'm a big service guy, so I don't get the director position and go, everyone has to do what I say. I feel like I have to serve everybody. I'm that type of person. Right. But when it comes to big decisions, it depends on the chain of hierarchy. Usually my word is the last, usually, but I like to work in smaller companies. Like the companies where I've been a director have been really flat hierarchies, like smaller companies. Right. So usually I'm the word.
Right, right. Understood. Okay, cool. So you're at the skate place, and then you say you moved to, at some point in time, to a larger company that was doing, you know, a lot of units. How did that transition happen, and what was that company? Well,
so between that transition, when I left the skate company, I started doing handmade jeans, and this whole chapter gets lost by the internet because it was before internet, but I had made a name for myself. Everyone knew Jon Phenom as not the YouTube like clothing brand mentor guy. It was Jon Phenom, the handmade denim guy.
Cool. So those, and was that like handmade denim? That was like your creation, your brand?
Yeah, from raw denim bolt, I was sewing it together because when I got into the industry, I thought I would work with fabrics more. I do work with fabrics, but typically you're basically like a graphic designer and you're making blueprints, like tech packs all the time of the garments you want to make. So I never went to school for it. So I started making things, and then it took on a life of its own. My boy at the time, Ricky Kim, had done a lot of marketing, and he was real strategic, and he got me with like magazine editors. At the time, that was the way you got viral back then before the internet.
Okay.
And so, I was doing these like $300 pair of denim. So it was all premium bespoke denim. And then from that, I had some clout. And then I moved to LA to work for a company called Drunken Monkey.
Before we get to Drunken Monkey, man, I got to talk about this denim stuff real quick.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the word tech pack. What's a tech pack?
Oh, okay.
You got to break the jargon down for me, man. You got to get the understanding of the lingo.
100%. So basically, the easiest way to describe it is a tech pack is a blueprint. Okay. You create this blueprint for every garment that you're trying to create. So everyone has their methods of just kind of getting it together. Like you just send the artwork to a company. Right. And so we're used to doing tech packs. Like if I was making this jacket or this button down, we would have one page for color and fabrication, one page for measurements. It could be a page for colorways. So if I make this, but I have this chambray in different finishes, I'm going to mark that on that sheet. So it's a recipe for the garment we want to see. And then we'll do that with t-shirts. We'll do that with t-shirts even. And like, there'll be at least 2-3 pages on a t-shirt, but it's a visual contract of how you want the garment.
Dope. That's fire. I got my guy, Mr. D Woods. Whenever we need some lingo, some definitions, he always comes through, man. He's the Google warrior. I appreciate you, Mr. D Wood. So no, that's amazing, bro. So, all right. So where was you getting? You said you started doing denim. How does this process work, bro? Where did you get the denim? You know what I'm saying? What were you doing with the denim? How long did it take for you to work on the denim? Talk to me about this whole creative process with the denim.
Yeah, man, and I'm glad you're asking about it. Otherwise, it's in the archives. But my mom, so I'd left the skate company, and my mom had a broken sewing machine in the garage, and I took it and I take a look at it. I opened it up and I fixed the motor, and then I just started making stuff. I was like, let me just put myself on a project. Like, how do you do this? I didn't know what a pattern was or a dart. I didn't know what none of these like sewing terms were. And so I started making stuff, just whatever I would make. And I bought a pattern. I would buy patterns and make it from the pattern. And then I would just start making stuff by myself. Like, oh, I would pick up a bag or something and see how it's put together.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think I can make that. And I would just try making it. So after a while, I was like, what's the craziest thing that I could create on a sewing machine?
Right.
And I was like, that would be crazy if I could do a pair of jeans.
Yeah.
And so the first one I made to a pattern, but it was like a pattern from like the 70s. So the fit was crazy.
Right.
And back then in the 90s, it was like a baggier fit, which is also coming back because of Billie Eilish and everyone styling out more baggier fits. But it was like that back then. And so I took the pattern and I put paper bags together. That's when they used to get paper bags out in the grocery store. And I just made my own pattern. And then the second pair was on point and I wore it and I would get stopped everywhere. Really? I was young and I didn't know denim was its own world, you know, like Evisu, you know, Levi's being the godfather, but G-Star, like huge companies that just do premium denim. And so, yeah, I would get stopped everywhere. And it was just a matter of time. Someone was like, what are those jeans? And I was like, they're Jon Phenom jeans. Ah. Yeah. And people would be like, are these handmade? And I'm like, yeah, I didn't want to say nothing because I felt like maybe it was janky, but I was like, no, yeah, I handmade them. And so the editor of a magazine, it was called Vapors Magazine at the time, he was like, yo, you got to make me a pair of these handmade jeans. And I was like, dude, it took me like 2.5 weeks to make them. Wow. Yeah, and he said, name a price. And I was like, trying to make him not buy it. So I was like, $150. And he goes, I'll write you a check right now. I'll go to the car. I didn't think you were gonna say that. And I was like, so let me have your inseam and the width of your jean, your favorite jean. Let me make it first and then pay me after. So that he was an editor of a magazine, so he would wear them to events. It was dude, the referrals coming back were just crazy. And that's what started it. Yeah. That's crazy, bro. So like how were you just like after that, after the word started getting out, were you just like producing a lot of jeans every 2 weeks? Yes. And then in the middle of that, I got my job offer to work in LA. So I moved from San Diego to LA and I was working a salary job doing seasons of apparel. And so I would come home at and then eat something like 6:30ish. And then from 7 to 1, 2 in the morning, I would be sewing jeans in my living room. Wow. And you asked about the denim. It's funny. It wasn't like Italian denim or like a Japanese loomed, you know, traditionally loomed denim. There was nothing special about my fabric. I would just go to Santee Alley. And then after a while, I knew a couple people who had really good denim that I liked. And so I would just go to them directly like, yo, do you have remnants? Because I'm not buying mad yards. I just needed, you know, about like a little more than a yard typically for one pair of denim. Right, right. No, that's so dope, bro. I mean, that's cool to, you know, hear the process of it. But then just to see like, oh man, I made these myself and you walking around and everybody's like, wow, like where'd you get them from? But then also too, it seemed like it exposed you to, like you said, a world that you didn't even know people were so passionate about and paid attention to. So I think that's fire, bro. So you got the denim and then you start working the other job. Is that job? Is that the place where they were selling a whole bunch, like millions and millions, or was that somewhere else? We were doing well, but the over there, my title was apparel designer, which was great. I was super happy to be in LA and working, but the job that I then took after that, I was a senior designer. Ezekiel at the time was doing like 60 million, and I had to interview 4 times to move up to that position. And yeah, I was managing like 13 categories, and it was a different culture. Like I said, it was very skate and surf. So I kind of came back to it, but with like a corporate touch. Like there's big companies like Quicksilver and O'Neill that do millions, are in these massive buildings in Orange County. Yeah. It was that's where I was at that time. That's dope, bro. I love it. Okay, cool. So I want to ask you a little bit about, you know, why brands, you know, they fade away. But before we get into that, bro, listen, y'all, I want to get into a commercial break. Basically, organic marketing, right, is very important because as opposed to spending money on ads and throwing money at the wall, it gives you an opportunity to build an audience, to understand what your audience wants. It gives you the opportunity to touch them in a way that you really can't do with an ad.
At the same time, influencer marketing is really huge, because when you can get your brand in the hands or in the profiles of people who have audiences, you can really take things to the next level. April Showers of Afro Unicorns has an ebook. It's extremely powerful, and it'll help you understand how to do this organic marketing and get influencers to take your brand to the next level without having to spend a whole bunch of money at the very beginning. You can prove out your idea and get your brand seen. So what I want to do is play this video, and then we're going to come back and have this conversation with Jon.
Hi, I'm April Showers. I'm founder of Afro Unicorn. Afro Unicorn is a brand that's been seen on many celebrities such as Tiffany Haddish, Phaedra Parks, Sherry Shepherd. Alicia Keys has raved about this brand. It's been spotted everywhere on Louis Vuittons. It's been spotted on CNN, Disney, The Kelly Clarkson Show, and This Nation, and most recently, Ebony Magazine. I'm going to show you guys how to do it all for free. I believe in organic marketing. I have grown this brand over 100K in 1 year through organic marketing. I'm going to teach you how to have people fall in love with your brand and to get buy-in. So check me out at Afro Unicorn University Library to get these ebooks to teach you how to grow. Let's go.
Let's go. So, Jon, you got Miss Afro Unicorn April. She's out in California too, but I want everybody to go to nopaidpromos.com. If you use code millionaires, you can get the BOGO for 50% off. So just so y'all know exactly what I'm talking about, I want you to go to No Paid Promos. If you get the influencer marketing books, you'll get 50% off the organic marketing book. All right. All you have to do is use the code millionaires and you'll get the BOGO 50% off. Go get that ebook. It'll take your brand to the next level. All right, my brother. So look, man, why you talked about Ezekiel is not around. Like, what makes a brand have longevity? Like, you know, some of these brands that have stuck around for a long time, how do you produce longevity with a brand?
You know what? I'll 100% honesty. It still eludes me, and I've been in the game for like over 21 years. I have heard little tidbits of what people do, but it's counterintuitive. Yeah. Let me be more specific. So I had a friend, Stussy, for streetwear, iconic, been around for years. And Sean Stussy, who started Stussy, sold it a long time ago. So in a way, you can think of it as a little bit more of a corporate entity. But I remember I was friends with a sales manager there at one point, and I was like, how do you guys approach taking on new accounts and stay so exclusive? And that person had basically told me that she spends a lot of time declining new accounts. And so they're really focused on the product and the marketing in that scenario. So the collaborations they do is super vital to stay relevant. And sort of like Vans, they don't try to get too crazy, right? Like really ride the trend, like right on the edge, because you know, it's like trucker hats or something. Like if you ride it too heavy and you get branded too deep with it and that trend leaves, people will be like, oh, that brand is whack because you went all in on it. So sort of like Vans, where they just stay kind of a staple and you could throw it together with everything, I think is the key. So I think with my best guess is keeping the product core and like heavy marketing and collaborations.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. I like that. So what's next in your story, brother? After you finished doing that, you worked at Ezekiel. What was next for you? What did you start doing?
Okay. So, I mean, after that, I was getting into my late 20s. I had my first real estate investment, which I lived in LA. And so I basically cashed out that condo and used it to start a clothing line. I used it to start my clothing line at like, I think I was 27.
Yeah.
It's funny now because I'll be like, oh, I felt mad old, but I'm like, that was so long ago. Yeah, so I started it, and unfortunately, I started it in 2007, which is right at the tip of the mortgage crash.
Yeah. And
so I lost everything. I watched the industry shrink in a matter of 3 years. And the product, I mean, the product was good. We got great reviews from retailers, and but it was crazy. Like the retailers would be gone like that. Anybody with 5 doors, 3 doors, it was an uphill battle. And I would commit to the goods, right? I would make them overseas. And so, yeah, I did that. I launched it, and now I use it a lot as teaching moments in my YouTube channel. But at the time, it didn't feel so good, you know? And so after that, I got a little bit after that, I got a call from a brand in Orange County, and they were like, hey, in the end, they were like, would you be interested in coming to work with us? And then I became the creative director there at a brand called Arisu. And so moved back up, and then I had been ready to run a company. And so to run just an art department and do their cut and sew was like, it was cake to me. It was easy. Yeah. And so that was my first time in leadership though. And so, yeah, I mean, some of my biggest wins were at Arisu.
That's amazing. Okay, cool. Well, real quick, I just want to give a shout out. Thank you so much for that super chat. Healthy hair, priceless. Hey, Charles, really appreciate how hard you go for the t-shirt community. Thanks for all the free game. Much appreciation. Healthy hair, priceless. Thank you so much. I'm humbled and I'm honored. I appreciate that gift. Thank you. All right, my brother. So look, man, obviously you've had your fair share. You've done your fair share in the game. You've worked for all these different companies, but I want to talk about more of your philosophy now, man. You know, when it comes to, because people are creating clothing brands and t-shirt brands every single day. What do you feel like is the foundation of creating a brand that can get accepted by an audience, right? And get purchased and bought and have that longevity? Talk to me. Let's talk about the foundation, what people should think about when they're like, I want to start a brand.
That is a powerful question. Glad you asked it. So I think I didn't drop it yet, but I just shot a video about this. But I think people feel like they need to start their brand yesterday. So I've been dropping a couple of videos where I'm like, slow down, because the industry will be here tomorrow and it'll be here next year and 6 months after that. So for brass tacks though, I think people need to have, generally speaking, a really strong initial logo. They need to think about the systems of that logo. So if you have a word mark and like an iconic logo, how does it stack? What scenarios do you use it in? Like, that's all homework you could do before you launch. And along with logo, obviously, it's coming up with a name. So I did drop a video about that recently. But again, I think sometimes people don't do their due diligence in seeing what's trademarked and what's not trademarked. And so the worst thing that you could see happen is to build something and then figure out someone has some sort of right to that intellectual property in one way or another. If you're crossing someone's class in the trademark department, that's going to be a problem. It can be a huge problem. Right. So for my basics, that's what I say. Have a logo where when you see it, you're like, yeah, that's it. Have a name that's unique. That's a lot of the beginning, because it'll set forth a lot of like a better quality art direction and look for your brand.
Okay, so I'm about to love, boy. This is about to be good. Boy, I'm telling you. Okay, John. So look, you just mentioned systems of a logo, right? And you dropping this designer terms, and so when you dropping these terms, I got to go deeper into it. But you talked about systems of a logo. Mm-hmm. What do you mean by systems? But I also heard you talk about like maybe different formats. Should people have different formats of one logo? Talk to me about that.
Okay. And you'll be surprised. I'll work for like a multi-million-dollar company and they won't have a brand guide, but I'm about to mention that. So, okay. So all y'all later, or open up another tab. If you just Google brand guide, okay, or sometimes a style brand guide, you'll see that there's especially more established, like a multi-million-dollar company will definitely have a multi-page. Like, I think the biggest I've seen is a 20-page brand guide. And that sounds crazy, but it's literally putting the logo in every single situation possible.
Wow.
And so like, you know, a newer person might say, why do you need that? Which is a great question. If you're a multi-million-dollar company, obviously you're dealing with a lot of different entities and maybe even licensing. So licensing is when you get into like ridiculous pages and like you have to sign waivers to make sure you don't misconstrue the way you use their characters and any of their intellectual property. But to bring it back to the ground level, for you guys, like using, like just dictating, this is my official brand colors, if you have that. And you don't have, yeah, but you might say, this is my official brand color, and you might have it in hex, you might have it in Pantone fabric color. So you're calling it out, like, this is my blue or my magenta. This is the magenta color. You could even call it your brand magenta. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So now we're talking about a lot of variations. And so if you have a word mark, right? Like Nike has Nike, that's the word mark. And then they have the check. They'll use the check alone. I call that an iconic logo. Right? So you could just have the check. Everybody knows what that is. You can have Nike. Everybody knows what that is. And you can have it stacked where there's Nike and then the check. So that's a stacked version of the logo.
That's fire, bro. So you feel like every brand, when they start, they should have all these different variations to be able to use later on, whether it's just the iconic, like you said, it might have the name included. Who do you go to make this brand guide, bro? How does that work?
So I mean, I just make them. I'll make mine. Some people will do it on InDesign. I make mine on Illustrator. It's funny you mentioned it. I offer a template on Clothing Brand Academy. Okay. But I do want to say, like I said, I'll work for like a bigger brand, and one won't exist. So for me, it's best practice for a bigger brand. So I'll make it, and I'll say, hey, just official. So then let's say my designers, I'm working in our department, and my designers are mad busy. And so it's like, we have to do a special collection. If I outsource someone and say, hey, I need you to do graphics and I need you to do blah, 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 I'll send them the brand guide and say, just for reference, this is how we've used the logo in the past. Make sure you stay in these constraints. But for a startup, I'm just happy if they have thought about that and have a good, strong logo.
That's dope, bro. Okay. So look, y'all, that brand guide, different types of logos, I think that's fire. So the other thing is, bro, I want to get your thoughts on like names, because you mentioned name. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we have names that might self-identify with the audience, right? Like you got T-shirt millionaires. It's aspirational, right? We know kind of, what it's about. But then you might have names that are completely just out there, right? It make up its own lingo. When it comes to people creating names, what type of advice would you give for people?
So what I say, the biggest piece of advice is make sure it's not taken. If I really bring it down to hit the total button, just make sure it's not taken. So within that, it goes without saying, like, find a unique name. So like when you said, like, there'll be brands that create a name out of nowhere. Yeah, I'm actually a huge fan of that, because at least it won't be taken. I talk to a lot of brands. A lot of brands page me, and because of that, on my feed, I get a lot of sponsored posts that will be from newer brands, and I'll see brand names that I'm like, a brand literally has that word, and they've been doing business for years. Right. Or what if the company is in like Germany or in another part of the world, but they're dominant, but they have a smaller reach here, but they have millions of dollars. So it's like, it scares me, because if you already paid for a sponsored ad and you're already into the ride, but didn't see if you can clear it, and clearing it here in America is more than good enough, because it's aspirational internationally. But that's my biggest advice. Like, just get a name that's unique,
Right. No, I think so that's very valuable, and we want to try to stay out the way of any trouble, right? So you like those unique names. Now, you talked at the very beginning, Jon, you said that you're very into logistics. Mm-hmm. Talk to us about logistics, and what do you mean by that?
So, traditionally that could just mean like the organizational part of the company. And it's basically like, I love art, and I love, we could talk about fabrics, we could talk about collections, I can get in there and talk about graphics, but I also really love just the way a company is put together, the way it's layered and structured, making sure you have the right people hired, like in terms of staffing, and the right people on the bus, and making sure the right people are in the right seat in the bus, right? I see. And discovering kind of like trying to create the best version of like your team, right? Like you have a version of your team that's gonna win the championships, but there's a version that doesn't make it, right? So it's making sure I use everybody in the right way. Also with logistics, I like dealing with sales. I like looking at production and trying to figure out how we can lower our margins on each of our products. So increase sales, lower the margin cost, or lower our unit cost so that our margin is bigger. That's what I mean.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's always good, right? It's one thing to make it, but the numbers need to be in order for us to make some money. So I like that, bro. I like that. Okay. So you are into this cut and sew world, right? A lot of us, we have, people here, in the audience, we screen print, they do DTG, they, heat transfers, that type of stuff. But, you do things where you cut and sew and you add these different pieces. What are your advice for people who may be at the screen printing level or may just be at t-shirts, but they want to add some of these special pieces to their catalog? What direction would you point them in to get something created?
I would have them watch a ton of my videos on it, like whatever I've said in the past.
There it is.
But I would say be very careful with so China had some regulations on it with Trump's campaign, his time in the office. He put a lot of tariffs on China, so it affected the business flow with a lot of the companies here and over there. So with that, there was kind of a rise in production in Pakistan and India. And so India traditionally has done a lot of good stuff. Knits is a very strong category for them, but China is good all around. But the advice that I'm getting to is with that, like a lot of scammers have kind of come out of nowhere. So I have a lot of people on my channel that will come and tell me that they got scammed. So by any means, I try to have them avoid that. So that's why I'm saying be careful. Try to vet your vendors when you start experimenting with cut and sew. Unless you're blowing up in social media and need to really fulfill at that level, or create a new product that is going to work for your merch or whatever that is. Unless that's the case, I would do slowly. Like start with a hat, start with a jacket, start with one or two things, and then start to ease into it.
Cool. And do you, is it like you reach out to somebody, you try to tell them what your vision is? Do you give them pictures, and then are you just ordering like a sample up front? Is that kind of the process?
So I'm going to use the T word again, and this is why we spend most of our time building it in the art department.
Yeah,
it's basically tech packs.
Tech packs.
So
okay.
The tech packs are made to try to be idiot proof.
Yeah. If
you give that recipe to someone in another country, and that's very difficult. So you got to be very clinical and very clear about your call outs, right? Like when the pocket goes here and it's 8 inches from high point shoulder. Like you have to call everything out, and then we'll put it in inches and millimeters. So that's why when we're doing the t-shirts, it's kind of a no-brainer because that's just 2 pages and we're telling our screen printer here in America what we want. But yeah, it's the tech pack. And then you send them the tech pack, they'll send you what we call a proto or a prototype or a sample. Right. So all of those are referring to the same things. And you'll go through sometimes 2-3 rounds of samples. And then the last one we call salesman samples or salesman protos. Okay. Those are the ones we bring to Las Vegas for the trade show, or we send a whole set of those to our distributors in other countries and they show their retail. And then everyone meets at the same place like a month later, not physically. There's a date where you say this is the cutoff date for orders, and you gather all the orders from everyone seeing the salesman samples. Then you go back to the vendor and say, we're going to make 200 of these, cancel this style. So out of 10 styles, just say hypothetically, let's say 3 of them don't make the cut. No one liked them. And so you make 7 of them, and then maybe 2 of them have an alternate colorway that did well also. So then you submit your numbers to the vendor and you wire a huge lump sum of money, which is the scariest part for a new brand, for sure. And then you get your goods a couple months later if you're dealing with China.
That's dope. Okay, so cool, man. You just mentioned Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. So basically all these, so I'm guessing retail stores go there, maybe, the creators go there, and that is where you're able to show your pieces for them to buy, to see if they want it or not. Is that right?
It is. So the trade shows are like the biggest show and tell ever.
Wow.
It's like literally the buyers are shopping for the United States.
Wow. Wow.
So like I'm gonna create a season that I think is super lit, right? Like it's a crazy dope season. And then the buyers could respond, and an all white jacket that's like this some crazy fabrication. No one might not buy it, and it'll never see the day of light.
Wow.
And so it'll just be a sample. So a lot of times it's funny. The designers, me and designers of all these other brands, will be rocking. You gotta rock something fresh because all your peers are gonna be there.
Yeah.
They'll be like, "Yo, what's up with that crazy white fluorescent jacket? Like, yo, when is that coming out? I need that." And then you'll just say, "Oh, it's a sample." So there's a chance it'll never get made.
It'll never even get seen. Yeah.
Yeah. So like most of this audience should know maybe Agenda Show, but there's a lot of trade shows. There's like Liberty Fairs. Magic is kind of the big show that purchases a lot of smaller shows. But yeah, Vegas twice a year, every year, my entire 20s and most of my 30s. Is crazy.
All right, sounds good. So I thank you. I appreciate you said Agenda Show, Magic. Are these shows usually around the same time each year?
Yes.
Okay.
And then like some are independent from Magic, but all the buyers will fly in at the same time. So you have people from all around the world. So think of any shop you've ever shopped at ever. And then also people who own shops in other countries. They'll show up to Vegas twice a year, every year, just to look at collections and make buys.
What time of the year is this, bro? Like what months?
It changes, but it as of prior to COVID, it was February and then late August.
Okay.
It used to traditionally fall around Valentine's Day, I think.
Okay.
Which is funny and weird and difficult and funny for everyone involved. But in any case, those 2 times of the year. And then with technology, though, things have changed a lot. There's different ways that people sell wholesale, basically online. But yeah, it's still prior to COVID, and I still think post-COVID, it's still going to be a huge event where people go and see, because they still want to touch and feel fabrics.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's dope, bro. So do you need some type of credentials to be able to like go to these shows? Like, does it have to be like a big brand, or could Charles Smith be like, "Hey, I got some designs. I want to go to the show." Like, who can go to this show? So
for smaller regional shows, there's some good shows like in Chicago. I mean, I mentioned Vegas, but there's shows like that happen like Designers Week. There's a huge men's denim show that happens here in LA. There's huge shows that happen in New York. Those you could just attend, though, the smaller shows. Now, Vegas has always been an issue because they don't want to invite the general public, but anyone was showing up to the shows. So you would have rappers, actors, musicians, anyone that's trying to pop a line would show up there. So people would try to get in. So they would charge something crazy like $365 if you're just a visitor pass.
Right.
So the key would be to get in with a retailer who has passes. So we would be showing. So if your brand is showing, of course you get passes. Okay. But if you're not showing, which has been the case many times for me, I would have friends that would give me a pass. And then the other thing would be like if your shop online says that you sell, then you can say, "I'm a buyer for my shop."
Ah, I see. Okay. But if I'm a brand online that I not even a buyer, if I'm a brand online that I sell and I want to get it into retail, I just got to pay a fee or something so I can get a pass?
Yeah, so it's like the aforementioned, like that crazy $300 fee. But
okay, got it.
Funny because in registration you would see it all the time because the promotion, everyone kind of knew, like in the industry, it's where you gotta be. So people, I mean, I had friends that were like selling out of their backpack and just trying to get in front of a buyer. But yeah, it's just making sure that you can try to legitimately get in there, or get in as press, or like just get in with a company that has passes. After like 10 years, I had multiple friends that worked for the trade shows. So they would just write up a pass for me. But if you don't, it's important to make a connection or try, like, if you could get in a retailer, that's like the easiest way. If you could just, if someone can say you're a buyer, it's like the easiest way.
Cool. So I want to ask you one last thing about this show thing, bro. So say you get into the show. Is there a way that you should present yourself? Do you have a booth? Do you know, how can you persuade somebody to be like, look, this is what I have. I want to get it in your store. Are they looking for certain specs or certain things? Tell me just about that real quick. Okay.
Yeah, that's a big topic. The buyers that have any kind of power, they do not want to talk to anybody. They'll take the appointments that they want to take, and they try to get out of there because they don't want to get bombarded.
Okay.
Everyone knows what it is. I mean, like, you know, the order can change your entire company, right? If the head like men's apparel buyer at Tilly's gives you a test buy, I mean, that can literally be like 50 out of their 100, and I forgot how many doors they have, right? I mean, you have to change your system. But in any case, to get a meeting with that person it's a random, it could take a lot. I'm really big on telling people you just got to network early. And I was tactical. I'm great in interviews and networking with people, but to up it another level, I would use LinkedIn. And I would backward search who the buyers are, and I would create like a dossier.
Yeah.
And then of course at the show, the win for me was trying to meet buyers, but in a way where I'm not trying to push on them. You know what I mean? You have to remember, it's like a cool guy, it's like a cool person atmosphere. So it would come after the company I was working for. I would just try to connect with them as a person. So what I do is, after I figure out people who I want to kind of like get into good graces of, I would try to naturally network with them. I'd follow them. I'd find their social, follow, you know what I mean? Try to come up with conversations and cross that way. That way, when you get to the point where someone's making a buy, you know, it's easier to say, hey, come meet me over at my booth if you can.
Yeah.
And then have them check out the line, or you can email them the line sheet at that point. But I try to garner the relationship first before I need from them. That's a long path, but it's free, and it takes time. Right. It's a long path rather than just trying to be real gangster and say, hey, you know, listen to my demo kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Right. No, I think but that's extremely powerful, bro. I mean, that goes back to what we're talking about, just organically, right? You're building this relationship, making a connection over time. It's the same way selling the B2C, you know, building up a relationship. And then after that, it's Gary V. Jab, left hook. There we go. You know what I'm saying? So I like that, bro. I like it. So I want to get into you, brother, and what you offer these days. I know you have Clothing Brand Academy. I know you do your thing on your YouTube. Tell me about both of these platforms. What do you offer to the people?
So the actual first name that I would use in the beginning for my YouTube channel was Designer Advice, and that's kind of what it is. But like my you know, the Clothing Brand Mentor, I kind of dubbed myself. But that's everything I talk about. I'm just trying to really help people if they want to do a clothing brand, right? So I kind of start after a lot of people, like shout out Stan Banks, you know, from T-Shirt Side Hustle, and what you're doing when you're kind of helping with spreading information with this group. Yeah. I pick up strong when it comes to the doing the cut and sew, if they want to go into that level. And so everything we talked about here in this interview are like topics that I go in depth with. And then Clothing Brand Academy is where I park all of my solutions that we talk about on the channel. So it's funny that I don't know how we got into it, but we started talking about trade shows. Yeah, that's the site. And then I'm closing out, getting ready to publish a course on trade shows. I didn't publish it right now because of everything that's happening and with COVID and everything, but trade shows are going to come back into effect. And so I have a course on that. I have like 4 different courses I'm going to drop, and those take a ridiculous amount of time. And I'll tell you, it's because I was getting ready to publish and I stopped and then added modules and changed things because I'm trying to give the best information. As you see on the screen, there's tech packs. I have documents. So more on the brand management side of things of what do you do in the office to actually organize your brand. So there's documents there that you can use in spreadsheet for like, I have a master schedule in there. I have a master budget that sells like crazy. And they're all templates. So you can make it as small as you want if you're starting brand new. But the thing is filled out via the companies that I've worked for years. So all of the things I set up will give you a sneak peek at some of the things like a $3-4 million company is spending money on. So it kind of gives you an idea of what that looks like. Of course, I changed the names of things in my set template. But yeah, so there's vectors there that work on Adobe and Affinity. And then what I'm trying to do is make some of them as accessible as possible. So I didn't want to like, I want to drop it when it's set, but I'm trying to play with getting a tech pack together that you could use in Canva. So it's
hey, that's fire, my brother. Cause see, look, I'm a person, bro. I always say this. I pride myself on being technical, but bro, when it comes to Illustrator and Photoshop and all that, man, I'm throwing it out the window, bro. You make something for Canva, that thing gonna blow up, bro. I'm telling you, bro. Yeah. For people like me, I need that.
Yeah, like literally was working on it, like trying to organize the way I do it, and then like everybody that's already purchased a tech pack, I'd have to go back and say, hey, this is part of the package too. But everyone that's bought already, it's in a vector format as of now. But yeah, I kind of see that as a future. Like you never know where things are gonna go, and then I just want to make it accessible. Like for real. There's some people amongst us that are. I don't like the way they're pushing, it's a little too heavy. And I just want to make sure I'm trying to be the best of the world of helping people get on their journey for a clothing brand. That's really what I'm trying to do.
That's cool, bro. I love it. Well, man, just looking at the website and seeing, all those resources, those packs, tech packs, the calendar, the budget, all that stuff. I think those are amazing resources, right? For people, just like myself, and people who are watching that, can really help us grow and just make things easier as we going through the process of trying to create. Do you do consultations at all?
Yeah, it's become a big part of my work week or work month. But
awesome.
Yeah, people from all over, and even like all over the US, and then I have a pretty big audience in the UK, okay. which is crazy. But I'm talking to people all the time, and so when people are like, I need mentorship, usually we just break down consultation. So you could just buy an hour, and then some of my brands that are ongoing development, we just kind of keep adding to it. But I do want to say to any of your people in your audience that are really just starting from scratch and want some of my vantage point, I have a free course on there as well. So it costs you nothing. There's no upsell. And I call it Anatomy of a Clothing Brand, where I'm breaking down the way I see the structure and 4 major pillars of like design, production, sales, and marketing. So yeah, and that's free. That always goes off like on my notifications. That's always going off.
Dope. Yeah, I'm over here writing the notes down. So bro, this has been like dope, man. This has been like so valuable. I'm always like, I don't come from the fashion world. I mean, I got into this space, but I don't come from that world. And, you're talking a whole other language of how to do it the right way. I always say, I feel like I got like the raw talent, but you got the polished, skills. And so just to see how that translates and how to get things done. And then also just a peek into how big brands do it and stuff like that. Like, I just think that's so valuable to me, bro, and everybody in the audience. So, man, Jon Phenom, this was a phenomenal conversation, my brother. I appreciate you being here, man. Any final words for the audience? Anything else you want to share with them?
Man, we covered a lot. I do want to say thank you to you. I appreciate your platform, and I'm sure your audience does too. But yeah, and y'all, if you guys have, because it becomes individual to your journey, right. You guys could always reach out to me. Obviously, it's a big part of what I do now. So if you guys had questions to your individual journey, you could always come get at me via my social. and see what I'm doing. But yeah, I would, if it's the first time you're hearing of me and any of this information is like blazing your ears, like, yeah, jump onto the channel and just click away, you know, search through in some of these subjects and click away. I have over like 600 videos.
Awesome. Well, look, man, y'all make sure y'all go follow Jon, jonphenom.co, clothing brand apparel.com. Is that right, Jon?
Clothing brand academy.com.
Academy.com. Make sure y'all go follow him on Instagram at Jon Phenom. And then is it CB _Academy?
There you go. Correct.
It's all in the show notes, y'all. So y'all want to follow Jon, make sure you go to the show notes. You'll be able to get everything. So my brother, I appreciate you, family. Keep doing great things. I'm going to definitely be in touch with you. I need some work done, you know what I'm saying, some guidance, and we'll be in touch, family. I appreciate you.
All right. Thank you.
All right, Jon. Yeah. Yeah. And another one. I love that, man. I hope that y'all value that conversation as much as I did. I learned so much. Real quick, before I even get into that, I got to give a shout out to Kathy Williams. Kathy Williams said, gems dropping all the time, sowing my seed into good soil. And Jon, mind blowing. Jon did an amazing job. He gave so much information. But one thing that I can really appreciate about Jon too is the fact that he shares, y'all. He talked about he got all those videos on YouTube. If y'all want to get more information, this was just the intro. Go to her YouTube, dive in, learn more, get some guidance, right? And then go to his websites if you need that special touch, right? But he's doing his thing. He has the experience. He has the chops. Please realize how you can take things to the next level. One of the most exciting parts for me, and you could probably tell based on the questions I was asking him, was about these like trade shows, right? How can you get into a trade show? If we have a brand that we feel is great, that's doing good, what are the things that we can do to get in and possibly get our stuff into retail? And one of the valuable things that Jon talked about was being able to build a relationship first. It's not so much about just boom, let me get the sale and the transaction, but figure out how you can find people on LinkedIn and other places, build the relationship, and then you can slide your way in there a little bit later on. So I hope that y'all found value from this. I appreciate y'all. I thank y'all. Feel free to share this with your mama, your grandmama. Share it in a message. Put it in a Facebook group. Send it in an email, right? I'm trying to get everybody to watch this T-Shirt Millionaires because every single week, I'm trying to bring the best people to help y'all take things to the next level. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and end this. As I always say, if you can see it in your mind's eye, one day you're going to be able to see it with your real eyes, man. Peace. I truly appreciate y'all. See y'all in the next episode.